everyone. Thank you for joining or for tuning in. I'm your host, Fernando Leon, and I am joined by my co-host, Gregory Moraviec. And today we have two guests, Jonathan Main, the Director of Channel Sales at Cyberleaf. And Jonathan is responsible for the channel strategy at Cyberleaf. And he has over 10 years of experience in various technology solutions and sales leadership roles. He has driven cybersecurity strategy and growth within the nation's leading managed service providers. We also have Michael Eisenhuth, and he has been working with MSPs for the past 5 years and helping them expand their services in the security arena. But a quick summary on Cyberleaf: they have simplified managed cybersecurity for MSPs, leveraging 20 years in network security and infrastructure. Cyberleaf's disruptive model brings comprehensive layered cybersecurity featuring optimized processes and enterprise cybersecurity technologies fueled by custom development, automation, and a US-based SOC. So let's learn more on how IT firms can grow high-margin revenue with Cyberleaf. So let's kick this show off. And Jonathan and Michael, I'm handing it off control to you guys. Please feel free to share whatever slides you like, but you guys are in control.
Awesome. Well, Fernando, thank you. Thank you for the great introduction for myself and Jonathan. Coming to you from Cyberleaf here. We look forward to getting a chance to show the MSP Corner community what we have in store for you and how we help MSPs really take cybersecurity to the next level. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen out. Let's get into the meat of it, right? This is the whole point why we're here. And what is Cyberleaf, and realistically, how can we help MSPs grow? So I'm going to kick over to my co-host here, Jonathan, just to give a little bit of a background as far as how Cyberleaf came about. So, John, I'm going to throw this slide to you, if you don't mind. Kind of give us the background, the story, the whatchamacallit of what Waterleaf is and how it became Cyberleaf.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks a lot, first off, Fernando, for the glowing introduction. It's like we scripted that out for you or something. No, really appreciate it. And to avoid complete duplication, what are we really? Waterleaf International is a combination of engineers and scientists who have 20 plus years of network infrastructure experience and work. They come from various corners of both protecting the government to branches of the military. And this group got together and did a lot of business inside the defense industrial base, working in major government contracts. And a lot of the clients were coming up to them and asking them, hey, it'd be great if you could additionally help protect us or give us some advice on what we need to do from a cybersecurity posture standpoint. We're like, yeah, it's super simple. You need a SIM, a SOAR, a US exclusive SOC, and you just put those together. It's just a development team. People are, they're looking at some EDR, and the clients look back at them and are like, yeah, that sounds great. What's a SIM? What's a SOAR? And how do I get my hands on a SOC? And so that's really what prompted the birth of Cyberleaf, which is cybersecurity as a service. And we act as systems integrators, trying to take the complexities of bringing all these various tools together, providing meaningful integration of these tools, process, and resources, and making them affordable for whether you're in the government supply chain, aerospace, the TSA. I mean, we work with all sorts of different large scale organizations. But most importantly, guess who needs this type of protection? Small, medium businesses they definitely can't afford it. And the MSP community has been drastically underserved for the better part of the last 5 to 10 years in the cybersecurity space. And you see the big players that are coming out there, the EDR providers, those that have hundreds of millions of dollars to spend on messaging around AI, machine learning. And that's some of what it really is. It's marketing spin. So we found a real big opportunity, and we're passionate about the ability to democratize advanced cybersecurity, defense in depth, layered security to businesses of all sizes. And we know we can only do that through a strong channel strategy of working with MSPs and supercharging them to protect against growing adversary concerns that are leveraging those same innovations that all these organizations are touting, AI, machine learning, but used against them. We've additionally incorporated a full range of professional services. You know what else is super complicated? Sitting there as an MSP, it's finding good partners that can fulfill some of these expert services like CMMC or NIST or any of the different compliance segments. We've taken these services and we actually offer those to MSPs to then resell and white label our team that can produce those type of assessments for you in-house. So it is an extension of your team. You're able to leverage our expertise, whether it's full-on pen testing engagements where you have a third party that needs to come in annually for any of those different regulations. It could be on a pen testing on a budget, or it could be upwards to the large internal IT departments that need help there, where they're closer to like $1 million engagement. We have full DFIR services, as well as threat hunting analysts are included inside of just the Cyberleaf offering.
Yep. So thanks, Sean. And just to kind of add an I'll say an attachment to a degree, right? Our background is we've worked for one of the larger RMM providers that kind of is like a conglomerate that has security offerings and so on and so forth. And as we were both kind of working within the MSP channel as channel managers, they oftentimes would come to us and say, "Hey, I really need help with just understanding this framework and CMMC. What does this all mean?" And we didn't have answers for them, John. Right? It was oftentimes, well, I'll point you to the right resource, but we didn't have the ability to kind of help our partners grow and resell those services. So it's a breath of fresh air for Cyberleaf to be able to offer those types of services as well. I want to hit on the SMB threat landscape. I'm not going to spend too much time hammering on it because I think we all understand where we're at with the SMB threat landscape. It's always under attack, but kind of like what has it grown into over the last, say, 5 years. So busy slide here, but a few things to keep in mind. So this is the IC3 report by the FBI, and it ranges from 2017 through 2021. So the numbers on the top of the page here, you can see it's 6.9 billion in victim losses alone in 2021. That's not a small number. Look at the graph on the bottom right. So that goes from 2017 up through 2021. And you can see it almost, it's almost say 2 or 3 times as much in losses from SMB over the course of a 5-year span. All the while, SMBs are spending more money than ever on security. So what does that mean, right? It's the old adage of the hackers are getting smarter, and we always have to try to stay one step ahead because as soon as products are out there, it used to be antivirus would stop everything. Then it was EDR. Now it's MDR. Now do I need a SIM? What the heck am I talking about? It's the idea that's ever evolving. Look on the left-hand side. Yeah, go ahead,
Michael.
Greg.
Yeah, I work with the FBI too, as well, and I know that when you report these things to them, they don't do anything about it. They just track it. So, whoever is reporting is probably doing due diligence, but you're also probably running into like tens of thousands of companies that aren't reporting it because,
Right.
like I said, the FBI is not going to do anything about it. So I bet this number is maybe 1/10 of what it really is. So that should be even more scary, that the numbers are going to be super inflated from this point because, like I said, the FBI does nothing about these things. They just track the complaints.
Right. It's almost like if you could give every business in North America a sense of truth serum, right? What would that true
Yeah.
number inflate to?
Yeah,
Just
right. It would be huge.
exactly. And then look at the MGM breach, right? I think we're all somewhat familiar. We've seen it in the headlines that MGM was halted from operating for a few days there. They said they're estimating it was a loss of about $100 million. And I'm going to call a little bit of BS on that. It's probably a little bit of under reporting as well. So that kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah, and we
Yeah,
were
go ahead.
also we were also talking to an insurance company, and they have professional estimators that come in and just like give you a number based on like your operating expenses. So those guys probably also don't take into account like your reputation being damaged and all these other different kinds of things, because once you reveal that you've been breached, I mean you're tainted forever. So
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of like the Scarlet Letter, right? Remember that book?
Right.
We all had to read that in high school.
Totally. Yeah, totally.
All right, let's talk about verticals, the verticality and kind of like what is the most protected and what's kind of the least protected. So this kind of just hammers home the point. You can see the first vertical on this list is defense industrial base. That is the least affected vertical by ransomware. And there's reasons for that, right? It's because the defense industrial base, if you're working within that supply chain, there's more regulations and compliances that you have to follow. You have to spend more money and budget more money on cybersecurity, albeit that's why they're at the top of the list as the least affected vertical. On the complete opposite end of that, you have healthcare and public health sector. They have HIPAA, but there's not really too many people regulating HIPAA or following, to I guess to make sure that those companies are spending more, budgeting more to put better security pieces in place. So they're more affected. So ideally, everybody over the next 5-10 years is going to get more towards defense industrial base as additional compliance regulations do come into play as well. And then lastly, it all depends on how you look at it, right? As a true business person, a person who owns their own MSP, I see all this as their challenges are my opportunity, right? So some of the stats here, 66% of the SMB businesses were attacked in the last 12 months. They don't have internal IT staff. They have a false sense of security. 2-3 years ago, we all had to deal with the work from home challenges, then pandemic, economic pressure. These all build up on things that if these SMBs were to have another event or to be surprised by an event, there's a good chance they might sink their ship as well, because those damages can cost over $500,000. On top of that, it's underserved because a lot of MSPs out there haven't quite adapted to a full suite of cybersecurity services as well. They kind of went from having antivirus. Now, a lot of them have EDR in place, but is EDR enough? I would argue it's not. So you have a wholly underserved market that as an MSP owner, you have the ability to go out and really do a ton of market capture as well. So Jonathan, I'm gonna let you kind of talk and walk us through a little bit of the compliance regulations that not only MSPs are facing, but also SMBs at large enterprise. Kind of everyone's in the same bucket. So walk me through the whole compliance regulation standpoint.
Before you start, I just want to give a quick tidbit of what Michael just touched on and why EDR is not enough. And this goes back to the conversation I had yesterday with this 500 person office. He acknowledged that, hey, we do have EDR in place, but it's not enough. He knows that EDR is not even going to scratch the surface as to what he needed in place. He's like, look, I need to ensure file integrity monitoring is being done. Threat detection on the network is being detected, so that he understands that he does need a SIM. He does threat detection, file integrity monitoring, and that's why we feel so strongly about our partnership with you guys. Is that you guys can get all of that done. So I'm hoping you can dive into that for during this webinar here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing, Fernando. There's a reason we call out the false sense of security of EDR, and we're going to get into that. But it's probably a good segue now to briefly relate. EDR rose in popularity, and we were part of the big boom of SentinelOne's rise, and inside the channel at least, as we worked for Continuum and ConnectWise, and we're one of the first to offer SOC-backed EDR plus SIM services. And it was so attractive as we started attaching capabilities of an EDR to categories of the NIST framework. And at this point, we're in the process of really seeing some different changes for the first time in a while to the NIST framework, actually to address some of those prior slides. So not only is it going to have identify, protect, detect, respond, recover, but they're adding another category of govern. And that really comes down to some of what we're going to talk about, I guess, really on this slide. So does increased regulation and compliance really drive a decrease in cyber attacks, successful cyber attacks? Maybe. You looked at the different industries that are impacted. Really, if you break down compliance, it's really all about being able to prove or audit that you're doing a good job protecting yourself, both from the tools that you're using, the process, the teams, the third parties that you're bringing in to assist. And defense industrial base, while CMMC has probably some of the most unanswered questions going on right now, and that's largely how Cyberleaf came about in its go-to-market cybersecurity as a service strategy to serve this market of heavily regulated organizations that didn't have big budgets but needed to have all of this auditing capability. That's why we built around an enterprise SIM. But the rest of these markets are really seeing a similar trend. You look at FTC safeguards rule. That's something that is put out there that affects all of the car dealers that have done over 5,500 auto loan transaction loans. And you wouldn't think that they'd be heavily audited, but guess what? They need MFA and they need a SIM and they need to have all this log retention capabilities. And some of these regulations don't call out needing a SIM, but everybody's going that direction. Just like CMMC has requirements around having US exclusive resources and how you're tracking all the data and auditing that, so are these other categories, whether it's the National Credit Union Association making recent changes to the timeline of reporting a cybersecurity incident, or any of the different ones, these other business sectors. Really, they are all very similar in nature of what they're looking for. So it begs the question as a managed service provider, how many of my clients are impacted by regulation changes? Most everyone in some aspect. And on top of that, the big driver, like anything of change, is really the insurance industry. And we're seeing more and more restrictions now than ever. These are just some factors that go into insurance rates. We actually partner with an insurance provider that can help also inside of your sales cycles. And it's part of once you start working with Cyberleaf, then you're able to get additional capabilities there that they act as educators to your clients on your behalf. That's really helpful inside the sales cycle. But generally, cybersecurity insurance, while what had a big boom when all of these ransomware attacks were happening at the rise of EDR about 3 to 4 years ago, the market started to compress now. And it's harder to get policies or maintain policies. It's become increasingly more difficult. And there's more restrictions like multi-factor authentication and all the different trends that we were just talking about inside of the regulations. We're seeing similar focus placed into cybersecurity insurance, which impacts every single business and provides a unique opportunity to potentially use the cost savings exchange.
Yep. So, John, I want to kind of hit on the journey of an MSP, right? Because it's ever evolving and you have to wear about 100 different hats, right? It's a busy job to have. It's a busy industry, so on and so forth. But let's go back in the day, right? When the caveman started walking, that was the break fix MSPs of the world, right? That's how kind of most of everybody got in this industry got started. Hey, I know how to fix a computer. I'm computer smart. And your friends start saying, "Oh, hey, can you help my business out?" And anytime I have a broken computer, and next thing you know, you get a phone call. And then next thing you know, you said, I have to figure out how I can have expected revenue. So let's try out this whole managed service aspect. How do I charge my clients? What's a monthly subscription? And that's ever evolving as well. And next thing you know, I got to do cloud services. Now I got to do cybersecurity. And it's a wheel that never stops spinning because, again, technology is ever evolving, as is the MSP. So you kind of always have to stay with the trends of the times. So the four main categories as we see it, you have your cybersecurity. Obviously, that's our sweet spot. That's our bread and butter. Cloud services, old school IT help desk. You can either outsource that, you can run it in-house. Everyone has their own opinions. Same thing with infrastructure. So you have your NOC aspect. Again, a lot of MSPs like to outsource that as well. A lot of them have the in-house talent to go with that. When it comes to categorizing what an MSP is these days, again, there's my guy with a ton of hats because again, you have to wear them all. So you have your old school break fix MSPs. You have your traditional MSPs that are doing your infrastructure. They're doing help desk. They're doing cloud service. Then you have your specialty MSSP, so managed service security providers. These guys are very highly specified in having a managed SIM offering. They're doing vuln scans. They can do some pen testing. A lot of the same stuff that like what Cyberleaf can bring to the table, but they're selling to the SMB world as well. Then you have MSP Plus, you have specialty MSP, you have these big empire builder MSP groups those are more or less like the conglomerates that are happening in North America. So say you have 20 big MSPs in 20 different markets, they kind of come together for buying power. So they're kind of setting like their own internal help desk system, their own NOC. They're trying to do SOC. It's a trend that's happening. It's slow, but it's definitely happening. Where Jonathan and I really see the opportunity for MSPs, though, is the MSP plus range. Do what you're good at, right? You guys are really good at doing help desk services and NOC services and cloud structure and so on and so forth. Setting up your own SOC, we'll get into that here in a little bit, is not cheap and it's very difficult. So finding the right partner to partner with that's channel focused will help you guys find what we call meaningful success. So speaking of which, John, I'm going to pass it over to you to kind of get in a little bit more into that.
Yeah, no worries. We've had the pleasure of working with a number of managed service providers that are national chain of all sizes in our tenure together, and helping them build out cybersecurity strategies. And if we rewind the clock 6 years ago, we're like, hey, you got to have 3 packages, and then in the mid package you have to have EDR with the SOC, and in your high package that's the compliance package, and that's what that one has a SIM and a SOC and an EDR. And it was funny, but as you would define advanced security and a defense in depth layered security, there's all sorts of additional elements now. We've got zero trust. We've got definitely this category of MDR, XDR that's a little confusing. And you think, well, where does a SIM fit in there? Well, it's it, there really haven't been that many folks that have achieved meaningful success. We're on calls all day, every day with different managed service providers, big groups, some of them that are in each of those different categories where they attempted to build their own security operations center. And we define advanced security, meaningful success there, and having a higher than 10% penetration rate of all-in security suite. And it's a very slim pickings of organizations that have been effective at that. We've ran into some that have given it away, but then their margins aren't where they want to be. But what are some of the reasons that MSPs struggle to drive client adoption in this comprehensive cybersecurity as a service space? Well, one, it's super difficult to select and integrate the modern tool sets and the strategies. Difficult to determine the crossover and or limitations of some of these other sectors like XDR, MDR, how to use a SIM effectively. It's also very difficult to justify, and kind of combining a few of these points, I, what it what is an extra $50 a month actually going to do for me? Like, how do I know security is working? Is just constantly that. If you're going to solve one thing, that would be one of the most important, is to communicate the effectiveness of a security strategy. And on top of that, it's really difficult to price and package cybersecurity. How many of you have tried to price a SIM before? All you have to know is the exact count of production servers and firewalls and all these different network elements, and figure out the average ingestion rates over the course of a rolling 12 months. I mean, it's super simple. Yeah, and just blend that into your user rate model. You need a rocket science degree to be able to price out a simple quote on advanced security.
Yep, it's quite difficult. And then when it comes to who do you partner with, John, it's a smorgasbord.
So this is a good one. It's just showing these are just security choices. When you think about how difficult it is to make decisions, select tools, build the integrations, and really speaks to why we created the Cyberleaf offering and part of what we're solving for, on top of some of those categories that we were just talking about earlier as far as main challenges.
Yeah, it's just there's a lot to pick from, and it's ultimately like where and how do I start? So again, these are things that Cyberleaf tries to package together and ultimately make easy for MSPs to utilize. So we hit on EDR a lot already. It went from AV was not good enough to everybody needs machine learning and AI built into AV. Oh, now that's called EDR. Great, EDR has been pretty good. Then hackers ultimately they understand how to kind of circumvent that as well. But what I really want to get into is, Jonathan, we hear this all the time from our partners when they're trying to sell into companies that are using an MDR service. Like you said earlier, MDR was kind of really created by the companies that have it by spending money on marketing, right? Using fancy taglines like AI, machine learning, right? When it comes to MDR, What is the difference between what Cyberleaf can do versus what your traditional MDR will provide? Can you get into a little bit more details on that one?
Yeah, absolutely. MDR is a reaction of the industry to, hey, we should have AI, machine learning helping protect not just the endpoint, but the network to some extent. So MDR is an adjustment to start adding some of these other data sources like cloud 365. We're trying to expand automated protection and visibility past just the desktop into these other services. Now, all sounds great. There's lots of providers out there that we'd categorize as MDR providers. Arctic Wolf. I mean, there's MDR. There's an MDR option from almost everybody at this point, and they range in price of $5 a user to upwards of 15. And really, where the limitation is they built in suite. So those are great services if you happen to get them set up right the first time, or you expand to their platinum pack. But all of those supplemental services have to be from that specific provider. And by nature, a SIM is supposed to be the catch-all for everybody. If we were going to compare this to Legos, the value of a SIM is saying, it's like that gray Lego mat that you could put your space Legos, your city living Legos, your police station Legos, all could fit on top of that. Every data source, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, EDRs are kind of like a widget. MDRs like a nicer version of widgets. And really, you have to have the flexibility as an MSP these days to be able to leverage existing infrastructure and investments of your clients, especially as you swim up market and you're starting to work with people who might already use a CrowdStrike. Our philosophy is, hey, we want to make sure all those data sources get connected. We want to give you the flexibility of work with whoever EDR. There isn't really a good EDR provider out there. One better than another. You could do a lot of functions. We skipped over that EDR slide because we were hammering it, but what the ability to isolate an endpoint automatically if something bad is happening. We could do that with an RMM agent and just the SOAR automation. So we're combining all of these different data sources is what we're doing. And an MDR is very much a pared down version that has light logging capabilities. And it's really meant to be a value play. It's a better than nothing scenario.
It's a box checker is what we like to call it, right, John?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd add too, like we're working with a client right now who had been using an MDR, we'll call it a competitor, right? They had a compromise, it was business email compromise, because they were bought into one part of the suite, but not all of the suite. So the part that would have covered a BEC wasn't covered, and they had no idea until it happened. So it's just like, next thing you know, you got to keep checking every box, and my invoice keeps going up because I need to keep doing all these add-ons. So that adds up quick, and again, our product agnostic approach really helps to alleviate a lot of that. Here's another one, Jonathan. So hey, my RMM provider just bought a few companies. They bought a SIM, they bought whatever, right? This happens all the time. The ConnectWises, Kaseya's, the SolarWinds of the world, they keep doing acquisitions. How does that hurt an MSP though, when they're fully in suite like that?
Well, one of the things you will never hear me say, it's like the only thing that working at Cyberleaf you could get immediately fired for, other than like the obvious, is saying that we're a single pane of glass. That is the biggest like hype. So we got this image up there. There's like there's a bunch of single panes of glass that are connected. For the good and bad of the ConnectWise and Kaseyas of the world, they've done great things for the MSP community, but they lack the ability to catch up to some of the marketing promises. It has to happen over time. So as they acquire these companies and they're pulling the integrations together, it's a bunch of different panes of glass, and they're incented to sell the ones that they own. And they're also trying to fill that value play of serving 20 or 200,000 MSPs. So it's not a solution that's highly customizable, that's hitting all of these capabilities of being CGIS and addressing CMMC and scaling with US exclusive resources and custom automation. They just can't do that because it isn't in the go-to-market strategy. Instead, it's how do we provide a one-stop shop? We'd equate it to if you're gonna build your dream home, one of the big RMM providers is kind of like getting your building materials and your kitchen, like, sink and all that fun stuff from like a Walmart. You can get all of that from a Walmart. They have a little bit of everything. But what they're providing is convenience and value, not some of the capabilities necessary really to meet defense and depth layered security.
Yeah,
And unfortunately,
we
that's
love
true
that
with, and
analogy. Yes.
we really did live that with, the event tracker. You see the Rocket Cyber horror stories that are going on right now. And Perch, great company for what it is, but not an enterprise SIM.
Well, and similarly, John, we've had companies and partners that we used to work with that started out going down the road of using XSIM, whatever that company wants to be called, and just getting frustrated with it because the outsourced SOC wasn't quite as what they thought it would be, putting too much noise back on their plate. So they said, "Screw it! I'm gonna build my own SOC." They don't quite understand the factors that go into building your own SOC and how challenging this ultimately can become. We like to put the picture of the field of dreams up there. If you build it, they will come. Not necessarily when it comes to building your own SOC. It's a very expensive, thing to try to do. But there's all kinds of reasons why, right? So cost. Not only are you buying a SIM tool, but are you able to afford an enterprise SIM that can do everything you want to? Who's going to develop your SOAR? We say it's about $1 million minimum for a small SOC alone. Talk about the people that are working in a SOC and how you can stop them from being poached by enterprise companies that are also looking for these same people. So it's a very difficult venture to take a SOC and say, I'm going to do this internally. At the end of the day, when you find a partner like Cyberleaf that can come with you with like basically fixed monthly costs that you know exactly how to reprice and things that we can help you put your pricing packaging together, it's a much easier venture to take. So kind of going full circle here, John, I'm going to go ahead and say we need to hit on defense and depth layered security. This is the whole thing of Cyberleaf, right? So like being product agnostic, having defense and depth security. Tell me a little bit more about why this is so important to us.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the foundation of why people are going to make decisions, buying decisions. And they're either forced to from a regulation standpoint, or they're reacting to something bad that happened. Like, why are they going to make further security investments? Those are really, unfortunately, the two major drivers. And we've built our whole strategy around this idea that no single product is capable of protecting you. So just like ransomware, for example, we have a ransomware prevention agent. We partner with Bitdefender and SentinelOne and CrowdStrike. We don't care, any EDR. And we're not only using their capabilities that are built into those solutions, but we're making it easier for you to administer those solutions. Most EDRs run in silent mode, by the way. And that puts a lot of onus on the MSP, even if it has a SOC, to keep the agent up to date, to react when bad things happen, to react to false positives. We've got scripting built in. That's what SOAR is, the security orchestration, automation, and response. It's RPA and security process in this automated fashion with a team of US experts on top of that. So when you think about us protecting against something like as common as a ransomware attack, we've got a variety of different layers all in a row that are going to allow us to react. And there's multiple reactions that will happen so that we can catch things in like 4 seconds. Instead of hoping, we hope SentinelOne got this. SentinelOne's like $2 an endpoint now. There's no way that it's doing and it's a great product. It's a great product, but good adversaries work their way around last year's antivirus. It's pretty easy. So you need this combined approach. You need to have the EDR. You have to have your RMM integrated into your defense strategy. You have to have protective DNS. You have to have all your firewall and clouds integrated into the SIM. So you got if we liken this to protecting your home, if you had a security service and you had the fire department, the police department, and none of those guys had those protection organizations had a way of communicating with each other, how effective would they be? The idea of integration and a SIM in our services is we're putting those together in a meaningful fashion. So it's less for you to administer those to the clients. And we're able to do it more efficiently than if we just relied on people to do so because of the automation and customization we put into putting all these tools together. Threat Locker is a really popular one that's out there right now. Zero trust. You shouldn't let applications be used against you. Microsoft Word shouldn't be able to call out to the internet and weaponized. Makes sense. That's an example. Well, what if you use that product? What's checking to see that that's working? We built integrations with, not only do we include that in our subscription, we built integrations to make sure that, hey, if ThreatLocker says it's blocking a Word from being calling out to the internet, well, there's all those logs are getting ingested to make sure that that's happening. And then there's workflows to make sure that that's we're checking to make sure appropriate responses are taken. We have risk assessments built into the quarterly automated pen testing is included in our subscription. Everything in the light blue. We're trying to hit as many of these security categories. If you go back to that slide that had all the different choices, we're taking the guesswork out of standing up a security practice for you and allowing you to scale without the investments is what this is all about. Security awareness training, phishing simulation. And when we partner with vendors, we pen test our vendors. We're not just reselling solutions to you. We're making sure there's a meaningful integration and that they pass mustard, and it's a safety to pull them into to the suite. On top of that, from a SIM perspective and compliance, instead of allowing you to pick and choose the service level and the amount of time that we're ingesting, keeping the logs, making them readily accessible, a year out of the box. Let's just hit the compliance on the nose and make it that simple in a single price the whole time.
Yeah, John, I think that's an important factor, right? Because working with other SIMs before, partners trying to figure out how to price it, right? It's like you said, how much log ingestion is this production server is that pushing through versus something else? And it becomes a vaunting task. So like the idea of what Cyberleaf has, it's very channel focused, right? We work with MSPs. We have a basically per endpoint price that's on a monthly and annual basis. So it's very easy for an MSP to say, okay, I'm getting charged X, I'm going to charge my customer Y. And there's not any variables that are going to come in and screw that number up for you, which when it comes to business planning is very valuable to say the least. So do you want to hit on a partner program? This is kind of like our secret sauce as well. So not only is defense and depth layer security like the foundation to our house, but the guys that build the house, the construction workers, are the partner program that we have in place as well. And you're probably thinking, oh gosh, not another damn partner program. Everyone has these stupid partner programs. What the heck does it all mean? What do they do? Right. I think it's definitely one of those things. Jonathan and I, we've been a part of these partner programs before. And we like to take a more customized approach these days versus the cookie cutter approach that is often, unfortunately, the case. So Jonathan, we've asked some of our partners and some of our connections within the MSP industry what they're talking about. Like what are some of the frustrations they have with their partners and their security, the security vendors. So if you don't mind, can you kind of walk through some of these checkpoints as well?
Yeah, one of the first things I did when I got into this role was let's just audit everybody and figure out if we were going to put together a rocking offering, like what do we need to do? So I surveyed all range of sizes of MSPs, and these were the most common questions. What's actually going to happen if there's a security incident? Are you guys going to help me, or are you just chucking tickets at me? Really, that's a real thing. We've seen that, the horror stories of that. Billing and pricing is complicated. I got somebody who's going to buy. They trust me. I know we need a SIM. How much does it cost? Well, let me get you in touch with your account rep. All we need to know are these 15 pieces of information. And that's too complicated. What type of go-to-market support's included? You know what? I know most people that are going to listen to this are probably thinking, man, this sounds pretty good. If I could only convince people to spend whatever the extra amount was, I would have sold a lot more security in the first place. So that's go-to-market support is huge. I know people are asking about webinars, how does co-selling work, all that fun stuff. Looking for easy visualization of compliance and reporting that can combine the tool sets. Not as much tickets, but how do you tell you're doing what you say you're doing? I've worked with partners before where it was like the great clip art exercise. We just go to this dashboard and we take a snapshot and then we do this one. And that's, if you're having a QBR at all, that was the extent of it. And then how do we stretch the dollar of every investment to get the most out of, we already listen, if you guys would have come to us 2 years ago, it'd have been great. But we're already working with SentinelOne. We're already doing this. We're already got Umbrella. We already great. It doesn't like that's sort of the whole idea, being product agnostic. Go ahead.
Yep. I love this. I love that slide for so many reasons, because it just allows people to relate. And it just tells me how you guys got this nailed down. You got it nailed down. I mean, you guys know our challenges, because obviously because of your experience. But man, that was that last slide hit a home run. Not only with me, but it's the same conversations I have with my IT partners. Same conversation. So you guys have simplified it, and I appreciate. I know I'm a little bit of a headache with Michael and all the going back and forth on pricing, but man, you guys have simplified it, and I love it. So much
Yeah.
easier.
No, we appreciate it. We're looking forward to doing big things at the MSP corner, and you guys, Fernando and Gregory. So our partner process really, and just like what the program's all about, is that simple. We know what the market opportunity is. And we're doing a little passing it back and forth to each other here and interjecting with some questions. But really, this whole day was about saying, we get it. We know it's a challenge to be an MSP, and now you're asked to do more than you ever have. And it's complicated, and there's not a good, easy answer out there. And we're doing the best we can to simplify some of those aspects for you of working with the different vendors and just getting to market with something that's credible, that you have the expertise, and more than checks a box, because it's providing that actual ideal state of integration. Is it easy to administer to clients? What type of investment do I need to make if I were to get additional business here? Do you have experts that could assist in these difficult scenarios that you're going to get into that are professional service driven, like pen testing questions or heavy compliance advisory questions? Ultimately, it all just comes down to this, though. Our process is super simple. Just like we're defining the market opportunity for you guys here of deciding whether to work with us, it's really the same thing as you go into working with an end client. We help you from a co-selling perspective, and we'll just get in a seat next to you and help you drive those sales cycles, help you understand what the client's looking for, some of the investments they've already made, some of the process and personnel that they have. And we're helping you create offerings and choices for them to leave themselves in a better position than they were when they started. And we really followed that choose your own ending model. So you can be a trusted advisor, and there's really not a situation where you can't provide some kind of value in any engagement that you have. We additionally have real-time dashboards, and I'm not sure, like, I know we're kind of running up in times as far as like the format, the last parts of this presentation go, but pricing model, super simple, low barrier to entry. We allow you to just kind of get in at a minimum commit standpoint and just get rolling with us. We don't charge you for being in, and it's a simple variable, simple price per endpoint depending on which package. And we have the ability for you to go all the way up to include all that light blue in our complete trust that's replacing about 17 different security elements, or pare it down to using some of the investments that have already been made. But the whole idea is then to be able to have auditability in your security process.
Yep. And then Jonathan, it's defining mutual success, right? The whole idea with us, we're MSP channel focused. We don't want to give you the same cookie cutter templates that are white labeled, right? That some of the bigger providers like to say they have. That next thing you know, you're offering to the same client as a competitor of yours that is using the same exact white label cookie cutter marketing piece. So again, everything's customizable with us at Cyberleaf. Mutual success means we'll white label, hop on a webinar and help you sell this to your clients as well. Anything you guys can do to grow your spend with us, obviously we're going to be all on board with that. And kind of taking that product agnostic approach. The other thing that we're really locked into, Jonathan, is our SIM. We run an enterprise instance of Splunk, which kind of ties everything else into it as well. So you run into situations where they have an EDR, they might have Sentinel-1 in place, they might have CrowdStrike at another place. Yeah, again, we can work with anything. Splunk's the only kind of thing that we can't change, which is perfect anyway, because enterprise Splunk is about top as it gets anyway. So Yeah, that about wraps it up. Jonathan, any closing words as I'll stop sharing, or we can go to Fernando for any questions that maybe we didn't get a chance to talk about?
I just want to give you a quick plug to Michael, because when that 500 endpoint deal came in a couple days ago, the individual was like, look, I want to meet on this day at this time. He gave me a couple of days and a couple of options for the hours, but Michael immediately got back to me and said, hey, we're open this day. We can do it at this time. We can set up a demo. We'll do the entire pitch for you. So, because Gregory and I, we know quite a bit about SIM and all that, but still, it's your guys' product, and man, getting that type of assistance, huge help. And especially with the demo, see the proof of concept and getting all that set up, that's going to speak volumes to the prospect, because believe it or not, they want to make a decision within, I think, 30 to 60 days. They're like, no, they're ready to make a decision like ASAP. So you responding and getting me that confirmation that you can do a demo is, yeah. A lot of IT firms are in my same position. They need somebody like you that has that infrastructure already built and that can help them sell. So thank you.
Yeah, responsiveness is huge. I just did two requests. One was to SentinelOne. I need some cloud funnel from them, and they have yet to respond to me. Over 4 or 5 attempts to reach them through their website. I called the sales line, and it just dropped me into a mailbox that was full. I mean, it's so hard to get through,
Yeah.
and you guys are so good at responding. So that's critical.
Yeah, that's one of the things that you find with these like large enterprise-ish type of security companies is they say they have an MSP vertical, like an MSP channel, but in reality, it's a small slither of the piece of pie of the overall pie of that company, and they don't necessarily take it. Not they don't. I'm not saying they don't take it seriously, but most of the resources are spent on selling to enterprise companies, right? So it's like the MSP guys are kind of working in the janitor's closet. So if you're a small spender with them, they're not going to necessarily be dropping anything to get to you, right? So
Yeah.
again, Cyberleaf, we're light on our feet. We're enterprise. We're we're MSP focused. So Jonathan and I, we have a ton of channel experience helping build clients' cybersecurity suites and helping them sell it. That's the whole point of Cyberleaf.
Great. That's awesome.
All
Greg, do
right.
you have any questions, or do you guys
No,
want
they
to?
they did a great job of explaining everything. So they
Yeah.
must have done this before once before.
Once or
Yeah, I think
twice.
That's right.
Once or twice. Yeah. Hey, I mean, I guess the big thing's just if you have any interest in working with us, what would we be doing without I guess the organized call to action, right? So obviously being part of the MSP corner is excellent, and these guys have done a good job assembling partners like a Cyberleaf to assist you on your journey. So feel free to reach out to Fernando and the group directly to engage with us.
Can you guys put a slide up there with your email addresses and your phone numbers, because that would be a huge help
Okay.
on. Yeah, because I'm gonna post it online this week or by Monday, so we get this out to all of the CEOs. I could include it in the body of the email, so it's up to you guys if you guys can splash it on the screen real quick.
All right, let me share my screen real quick.
Awesome. That's perfect.
Yep, there you go.
There we go. All right. Well, guys, thanks again for sharing this information. We hope to generate a ton of business for you guys.
Yeah, awesome. I had fun. Thank you for the invite, Fernando and Gregory, and looking forward to working with you guys as we move forward. And like Jonathan said, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks.
All right, thanks, guys.